What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. So here's the deal. Today's video concept is going to be a little bit of a quick, simple concept, but what I was doing recently was scrolling through Keep Trade Cut. I came across three scenarios here where these guys are kind of clustered together in groups of threes. There's one at the quarterback position, one at the running back position, and one at the wide receiver position. What I want to do today is tell you guys who I prefer in those clusters, kind of play the game, right? Keep, trade, cut. Who am I keeping? Who am I trading? Who am I cutting? And then I will explain myself for why I chose the guy that I am keeping. So let's just hop right into today's video. If you don't get what the video concept is after that explanation, you'll probably never get it. So without further ado, let's hop right in. So the first scenario that I want to talk about here is the one at the quarterback position. Right now on Keep Trade Cut, these three quarterbacks are being bunched together within a few hundred points. You have quarterback 23, Michael Penix Jr., quarterback 24, Bo Nix, and quarterback 25, Deshaun Watson. Like I said, they're within 100 points right here. I said a few hundred. It's actually 100 points, and it's actually closer to 50 than it is 100 points. So these guys are neck, and neck in rankings right now, and there's an argument for all of these guys, right? Penix, Nix, Watson, kind of pick your poison. That's the point of these clusters. But I'm here to tell you guys today that I am keeping Deshaun Watson in this group. I am going to be trading Bo Nix, and I will be cutting Michael Penix Jr. Now, here's kind of the argument for why I am going with Deshaun Watson. You look at what he's done over his career. The career stats, they're obviously pretty impressive, especially when you look back at his time in Houston. Now, obviously, 2022 and 2023, he only played 6 games in each of those years. He was averaging about 15.1 fantasy points per game in both of those years, but we haven't had Deshaun Watson at peak form for a while now. And then obviously in 2023 as well, he dealt with some injuries. So he had that rotator cuff contusion, and then he had that shoulder fracture in week 11 when he came back from injury. Basically made him miss 11 games this year. So we didn't get a lot from Deshaun Watson in 2023. But there is one thing, and maybe this is hopium at this point, but the one thing that gives me hope for Deshaun Watson is when you look at the most fantasy points per game all time from the quarterback position, Deshaun Watson currently ranks number 3 overall on this list, just behind Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Now, looking forward to 2024, you got to see that the Cleveland Browns, they've added to their offense. They've traded for wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, and they extended his contract as soon as he got there. And whether or not you are a fan of Jerry Jeudy, this is a wide receiver that gets added to this room. It's hopefully going to elevate the Browns passing offense, and he should be an immediate upgrade to what wide receiver Elijah Moore was in this offense over the last couple of seasons. Now, the Browns, they've also made a change at their offensive coordinator position. They bring in Ken Dorsey, and he's kind of known for emphasizing his passing offense during his time with the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be a drastic change and a massive shift in philosophy from their previous offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, who was known for establishing the run. Now, considering these changes and the impact of what Nick Chubb's knee injury was, Cleveland may have to prioritize a pass-focused type of offense here in 2024, and this change could provide Deshaun Watson with an increase in passing opportunities, hopefully allowing for a bounce back in production, even if it isn't all the way back to his Houston days. And quite honestly, despite the age, I know there's young guys like Bo Nix and Michael Penix. There is not a player in this tier that has the immediate upside that Deshaun Watson has in this tier. And of these three guys, nobody possesses the type of talent that Deshaun Watson possesses as well. Now, moving on to my second scenario here, this is going to be going over to the wide receiver position. The players in question are going to be wide receiver 15, Brandon Aiyuk, wide receiver 16, Nico Collins, and wide receiver 17, Devonta Smith. Now, these guys truly are all within 130 points of each other, so a very, very small gap between any of these guys. And Brandon Aiyuk and Nico Collins, they are within 9 points on Keep Trade Cut right now, so very, very similar in rankings. For me, what I am going to be doing with this group, I am going to be leaning towards one of two players. Now, there's two guys that I think you could consider keeping, Nico Collins and Brandon Aiyuk. These are the two guys that you should be considering. And I don't think that there's necessarily a wrong answer. I think that you could keep both of these guys, and maybe this is me being politically correct, but I truly do love both of these wide receivers. I even love Devonta Smith. I just don't think he's at that level of Aiyuk or Nico Collins. Before this game, I am going to keep Brandon Aiyuk. I will trade Nico Collins, and I will be cutting Devonta Smith. Now, looking back at at 2023, you see that Brandon Aiyuk, he had an incredibly, and I mean incredibly, like historically efficient 2023 season. He ranked second in yards per target among wide receivers since 2014, and despite missing week 3 due to an injury and sitting out of a non-impactful kind of week 18 game, Aiyuk's per game scoring placed him 13th among wide receivers in PPR points over those 15 games. Now, he proved to be a reliable asset for fantasy managers. He consistently finished within the top 36 PPR wide receivers in 13 of his games. He also landed in the top 24 9 times, and he achieved top 12 wide receiver 1 status 5 times last year. Now, there is a positive outlook to Brandon Aiyuk despite the media right now and despite the potential regression that he could see here in 2024. Now, as I mentioned, Aiyuk's efficiency, it may see some regression. This is common among historically high performers. However, his consistent performance across multiple seasons underscores his reliability as a fantasy asset, and despite the fluctuations in the San Francisco 49ers performances over the years, their offensive strategy, Aiyuk has maintained a solid fantasy value, consistently ranking between wide receiver 13 and wide receiver 25 in PPR points per game over his 4-year career. It's also worth noting that some potential improvements in the 49ers passing volume could mitigate an efficiency decline. In 2023, the Niners had a low passing attempts per game, which was influenced by game scripts rather than an offensive capability, and if the 49ers adjust their strategy to throw a little bit more often, Aiyuk could see an increase in opportunities to contribute, further solidifying his status as a dependable fantasy football option. So because of that, Brandon Aiyuk's track record of a consistent producer and the potential for an increased involvement in this team's offense, or maybe even his future team's offense, if that be the Washington Commanders or whoever you think it may be, should make him a reliable and valuable long-term asset for our Dynasty Fantasy Football rosters and somebody that I am definitely willing to bet on. And again, this is just the one more disclaimer. This is not me not liking Nico Collins. I talked a ton about Nico Collins in this video right here. If you guys want to go see how much I like Nico Collins, it's in this video right here. I'll link it in the description so you guys can go see that. We talked about the Houston Texans wide receiver room. But yes, I don't hate Nico Collins. I just prefer Brandon Aiyuk by a tiny bit. And now moving on to our third scenario here, we are going to go to the running back position. This one is a little bit more unique because running backs, they're kind of hard to judge in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And I feel like for the most part, we should be looking at these guys in 1 to 2 year windows. But the running backs in question are going to be Saquon Barkley, who is at the running back 8, Kyren Williams, who is KTC's running back 9, and Jonathon Brooks, who is the running back 10 over there on Keep Trade Cut. And all of these guys are within 150 points of each other. Now, like I said, we should be looking at these guys in 1 to 2 year windows. Saquon obviously being the oldest, Jonathon Brooks being the youngest, Kyren Williams somewhere in between. But with this group of guys, it may surprise some of you guys that have been around this channel for a long time because I'm actually going to be keeping Kyren Williams, trading Saquon Barkley, and cutting Jonathon Brooks. Now, I'm not going to lie. I have been digging deeper and deeper into Kyren Williams kind of as the redraft season approaches, and I may have been overlooking him a tiny bit for Dynasty Fantasy Football, and that's not to say that I think he is a surefire superstar bona fide type of guy. He is not, but I do think that there's potentially a little bit less risk than is being judged by the community right now. You look at Kyren Williams in 2023. He obviously had that incredible season. He had 1,144 rushing yards, 206 receiving yards, and 15 touchdowns in just 12 games. Now, he did miss 4 games due to an ankle injury and skipped the last game because it didn't really matter much for the Rams in their standings. And the injury concerns are always going to be a concern with Kyren Williams. But despite this, Williams was the second best running back in PPR, half PPR, and non-PPR points per game, only behind San Francisco 49ers Christian McCaffrey, and he finished as a top 12 running back in 9 of his 12 games, including 6 times in the top 4. And Kyren Williams, he was a workhorse. He played 82% of the Rams' offensive snaps when he was on the field, and he led the league with 19 carries per game and averaged 4 targets per game as well. He also ranked highly in goal line carries, being 4th inside of the 10-yard line and tied for 8th inside of the 5. Only Christian McCaffrey had more expected PPR points per game. Now, among running backs with 90-plus carries, he was 5th in yards per carry, 8th in missed tackles forced per attempt, 7th in yards after contact per attempt, 10th in rushing yards over expected per attempt, and 3rd in Pro Football Focus's rushing grades. Now, looking ahead, Williams, he is returning to the same Rams offense led by head coach Sean McVay and offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur. And McVay has a history of getting great performances out of his running backs, with 3 of his RBs finishing in the top 2 for PPR points per game over 7 seasons. And the Rams run blocking was impressive in 2023, ranking 5th in Pro Football Focus run blocking grade, 5th in adjusted line yards, and 14th in ESPN's run block win rate. They've also signed an offensive guard in Jonah Jackson to a 3-year, $51 million deal, who is going to further strengthen this offensive line. Now, there will be some competition for Williams this year, obviously because the Rams drafted Blake Corum, who had 1,245 rushing yards and 28 touchdowns last year for the Michigan Wolverines. However, Corum only averaged 4.8 yards per carry in college and ranked low in Pro Football Focus's elusive rating. And when they asked Rams general manager Les Snead about the pick, he mentioned that Corum was brought in to keep Williams fresh and to have multiple quality runners for the long NFL season. And when they asked Sean McVay about Blake Corum, he praised Kyren Williams more than he actually talked about Blake, saying that he liked the contributions that he brought to the team, Kyren's work ethic, the production he put together in 2023, and he also went out of his way to make it clear that Williams will remain a key part of this offense moving forward, kind of mitigating the risk of what a potential Blake Corum could be. Now, obviously, like I mentioned, the injuries, that could be an issue for Kyren Williams, and that could open the door for a guy like Blake Corum, but I think long-term, in this group of guys specifically, Saquon Barkley, Kyren Williams, and Jonathon Brooks, yes, I like Saquon, and Saquon's very talented, a guy that I have in my top 10 redraft rankings, a guy that I have in my top 10 running back rankings for Dynasty Fantasy Football, but Kyren Williams probably has the highest ceiling of all of these guys, and he has a couple of years youth on Saquon Barkley, so that just slightly gives him the edge over Saquon in this tier. Now, that is all I have for you guys today. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Maybe I can do this again when some more scenarios like this kind of stand out on Keep Trade Cuts rankings. And if you did enjoy the video, go ahead and hit that like button. It is the best free way to show this channel some support. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel and hitting the notification bell. That way you guys never miss a future upload. And last but not least, hit our Discord. Join that Discord. It is free to join. It's linked in the description down below. And that is the best way to get in contact with me to help you guys with your Dynasty Fantasy Football teams, redraft teams, best ball lineups, anything that you guys got fantasy football related. I'm there to help you. And we got an awesome community of people that are there to help you as well. And with all of that being said, I have nothing else for you guys today. So I will see you on our next video. But until then, peace out.